Ben from North Star is going to be a few minutes late, so we'll just go over a few things real quickly. And hopefully he'll be right here. I appreciate everybody volunteering their time. When Ben comes, I'm going to do the introductions because I want everybody to know Ben and talk to him. I tried to email everybody. We have a 200th anniversary celebration coming up. February 10th is our anniversary. If you didn't get a copy of the invite, it's right here. Feel free to grab one. Everybody's invited to that. We are going to be having, on that night, it's going to be starting out at 5 o'clock. We're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance with the Girl Scouts. The chair of the select board is going to welcome everybody. We're going to do a reenactment of the first signing of the Founding Fathers. Then we're going to have the Sebago school children here singing some songs for us. We got proclamations from the Congress and the Senate, the U.S. Senate. Then we're going to have a comprehensive plan display there, a historical society display, Sebago school display, and then we're going to have a big dinner to feed everybody and a big cake with our emblem on it. So we want everybody to show up and have a good time. It's celebrating our 200th anniversary, but it's also meant, we've been trying to do this for a while, to show appreciation to all the hundreds of volunteers we've had over the years for the town, and also to kick off this comprehensive plan and get it going. It just fell together very, very good. So what I wanted to do quickly is the comprehensive plan update and overview. Is we went over this a few times with the Board of Selectmen. We had people come in, do their presentations to do the comprehensive plan, and then the board then awarded the bid to North Star. And I just wanted to quickly, if you look at your package, some of you may have been to the selectmen's meeting, some of you may know exactly what a comprehensive plan is, but we'll just briefly go in your package, what is a comp plan? Garrett's going to throw it up on the screen, I think,
Yeah,
and go over that. So I'm going to just try to kill a few minutes before Ben shows up. Unless you want to watch Mad Men.
Oh, let's watch my few mine.
Jack Ryan.
I see what you guys are doing.
Turn the day.
It's the Twilight Zone.
They're in their offices, right up
Playing
here, paperwork, right? We got you now, Michael. We're supposed to be busy up here with paperwork. We got your number now. Which one are you playing?
Season 3 of Scooby-Doo.
Why do you watch that? You can just live it. That hits a little too close to home for me.
So he's going to be pulling that up. So what is a comp plan? The comp plan is a long-range policy document guiding the community's future growth and development. The purpose is to balance community goals with state and regional priorities and act as a blueprint for zoning, ordinance, and public investment. The state statute reference is 30A 187, helps municipalities meet statewide goals such as resource conservation, and efficient land use. The key role, foundation for land use ordinances, essential for applying for state and federal grants. Typically, it's updated every 10 to 12 years. We didn't put an old copy out to everybody, but the last time this was revised was 2006. If anybody wants a copy, I'm glad to give you one. I believe it's on our website. If it's not, I can put it on the website. But a lot of that you'll see is what we follow with the new one. But it needs to be updated because of change in state mandates. You know, what sections make up the plan? There's inventory and analysis. I'm not going to read all those for you, but a lot of it is land use, housing, transportation, recreation, and open space, historical, and forestry, agricultural, so there's quite a bit to it. It has policy goals and strategies, steps to achieve these visions once they're in place. Future land use plan, that's the big one, the guidance on zoning and growth areas in the town, which we're mandated to have. Implementation program, timeline, funding, and responsibilities for proposed action in the future. Usually after he's done, there's an implementation committee that gets put together. Sometimes the planning board, sometimes the board of selectmen, sometimes it's a group like yourself, to make sure that these goals get put into place, that they go forward, and that something goes rather than having the book put on a shelf. If you go to the next page, I don't know how much you have on there, the Maine Growth Management Act, It explains out what's required of it, the comprehensive plans, and the significance of it. It's framework to protect Maine's unique environment while guiding economic and residential growth responsibility, and it encourages regional cooperation and sustainable land use practices. The statewide goals are listed after that too, which encourage orderly growth and development, protect natural resources, promote affordable housing, safeguard ag and forestry lands, protect critical nature resources, maintain water quality and manage stormwater, prevent and mitigate coastal hazards, and preserve historical and cultural resources. So in your packet after that, what you have is, it says optional self-assessment checklist. That's right, the state, this is the actual state's checklist. So when the state, we submit to the state uses this as a pass-fail, and they go through each one of these sections to see if it's in compliance. And typically right now, I think right now there's 4 towns doing it, because the state is pulling data specifically for those 4 towns to help us with this. And so when we're done with this project, everything you see in that list will be checked off and there'll be a process. So the framework of this is pretty much from town to town. You look at it, they'll look a lot alike. The difference is with Sebago, we're unique, and all that information that goes in those holes is what's going to come from the meetings here, data gathering. What I didn't get into is how we chose the people that we did. And one of the things we did look at is we looked at their experience, if they had submitted these to the state, were they approved, their data collection methods, and to ensure that the data collection was inclusive, meaning the whole town needs to have input on this, including summer residents and the diversity of the town to meet all of this. So going through that, Ben has showed up. I'm going to introduce Ben, and with Ben, what I would like to do, if you don't mind, is just to go back a little bit on the agenda to the introductions. I'm going to start with myself. I'm going to go to Ben and his assistant and go around the room because I want everybody to know everybody, and then I'm going to let Ben take over after that. So I'm Michael Chairman, I'm the town manager, and Ben's going to come and introduce him and his one staff, I guess, tonight. And then we're going to go around and introduce everybody.
Cool, thank you. I'm glad you got started without us. We're still learning how much time to leave between the office and here.
A lot.
A fair bit, yeah. Going through North Wyndham. So I'm Ben Smith, North Star Planning. I'm the principal, the owner of North Star, and I'll be the project manager for this effort. You're gonna see our whole team at various points over the year for meetings and other activities where we're gonna need a little more folks in the room, but you're definitely gonna see a lot of Onarosa as well, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Onarosa, associate with North Star Planning, and yeah, we'll be very involved. Excited for it.
Cool. So do we just want to maybe start with the front row and kind of work our way around?
And I wonder, what should we say about ourselves?
Why don't you just introduce yourself and let us know how long you have lived in the community?
I'd like to know also what area of Sebago you live in.
I'm Lisi Goddard. I live in the Long Beach area, and we bought our place in 2006, but have lived here full-time since 2020. I'm a lifetime in schools.
I'm Garrett Jones. I'm technically not on the committee, I'm staff, but I live up near Hawks Road, near the Naples town line.
Karen Wiles, I'm down right on 114, Sebago Road in the village, by the school. Been here 24 years.
David Welch, Kimball Corner Road. We've lived here since 2012.
Terry Welch, I live with Dave. Also lived here since 2012, and we live in the Larrabee Farm up near the Naples town line, north of Sebago.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Andrew Plummer, not a committee member. Live right up the street.
Great.
Been here 20 plus years.
Great.
Ann Farley, I live on Hancock Pond Road, and I've been in and out of Sebago living most of my life.
Merle Carnes, 87 Dyke Mountain Road. We've owned our house about 3 years. We've lived here about 2 years. And I've lived in Texas, California, Georgia, and New York City previously. So this is a retirement location for us, full-time.
Gotcha. Cool, thanks.
Tina Vaness. This coming summer is gonna be my 73rd summer in Sebago. Was here as a kid. Always wanted to live here. When I retired, exactly what I did, and that's about 20 years ago. So,
Thanks.
You live in Long Beach.
Long Beach. Next to the bar.
I got you.
Next to the bar.
John Calarisa, been here since 2019. I've really been here my whole life, but lived here when I got smart. I live on South Beach Street, which is Northwest Shores,
Okay.
right across from the Palm Beach.
I'm Bev Buxton. I live in North Sebago. We've had our property for 26 years, and I've been a permanent resident for 5.
Got it.
Michelle Strike. I live on Convene, just around the corner. I've been here since 2020 officially. My husband longer.
I'm Zoe Green. I've been here 25 years. I live at Max Corner, where Long Hill 107 meet.
Got it, okay.
Eric Christensen, Hancock Pond Road. I've lived here 30 years. I'm Kurt Christensen. I live on the Northwest River Road near the town beach. And I've been here for 63 years.
Rob Newcomb, I live up like Forest Hill. I've lived in Sebago for 39 years.
David Heath, I am at the corner of Dyke Mountain Road and Douglas Hill. An old house, 1894 house, and I moved here in 1978.
Gotcha.
Not even.
Right. Not as old as the house?
So Terry Welch was kind enough to bring snacks here. Nobody knows Terry, she's a great person and a fantastic cook, so feel free to have some of that. It is kind of informal what we're doing because we have a large crowd. We're trying to get an orientation going. As I mentioned before, we're going to do our official kickoff of the comp plan February 10th. We plan on being very large. Everybody's welcome to be there, of course, and putting some displays up for that. I want everybody to, Garrett, stand up for a second because I want to make sure everybody knows Garrett, because Garrett, if you don't know him, Garrett's a land use assistant, and he works for the town, and he is going to be a liaison here. So if you got questions, you have information that needs to come in and out, Garrett's the man to talk to about that, okay? So I want to make sure everybody knows Garrett. Give a wave to everybody, Garrett, and I know who you are. I'm Garrett.
Was there one more person to introduce themselves? Did you?
Yeah, I'm Christina Robinson. I'm the code enforcement officer. I've been here for a year and a half.
Thank you. Yep.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get off the list.
So I think one of the things we're curious about, and we have a few slides, do you just want to like jump right into some of these things? Was there a couple of questions we wanted to tee up?
Yeah, I don't know how quickly we can get them.
Part of what we're going to get into more specifically is some expectations around meetings, how often we'll be meeting, the work that needs to happen between meetings, and how your individual interests or expertise or insights into the community can help shape the work that we do over the few months. As Michael had mentioned, there's a data component to the work we're going to do, where we collect information. There is a checklist, and there's a bunch of data that's available through the census, and there's data available through the state website. So what we want to do is make sure we're working with the people in this room to make sure that we have the data that we can't get anywhere else. The things that relate to Sebago that aren't going to be on the census.gov or in the Maine State Housing database. That will be an important role for this committee. Another role of this committee is, I often describe it as kind of like being the ambassadors for this effort out into the community. So there's a data component, but there's also a public input component. And both of those things are gonna inform the work we do around goals and policies and kind of setting up some longer term things for the town. So think about that as Onarosa kind of dives into a little bit of an introduction, and we'll talk a little bit more specifically in a couple minutes once we get through the high level stuff.
Yeah, so we wanted to start with a couple of questions. You all just shared how long that you have lived in Sebago. And so we were wondering who has been involved possibly with the 2006 comprehensive review project.
My mom was.
I've read it.
Okay, that was
Recently.
going to be our second question. Who has read it? And great.
Yep.
Good, great, okay. So for those of you who have read it, what stood out to you? What did you like about it? Or what did you dislike about it?
It's 77 pages.
As positive thing, negative thing?
Whichever
Just
column
stood
you'd
out?
like to stick that in. It required more than one beer to get through. It's a little dry. A little dry.
I'm gonna start measuring plants that way now.
I like the data. It was informative and it was useful, I thought, when I was on the budget committee.
Okay.
I think there'll be a bunch of things in there that we can still use, like our natural resources and how we're trying, some rewording maybe, but it did a lot of protecting all our resources and everything, so that would be good.
And that still feels relevant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what comes through for me on the comprehensive plan is that it describes Sebago as being a rural vacation town, and I suspect that many people in town would like to keep that, but also figure out how we can, encourage small businesses and make sure we have good tax base and that sort of thing. So kind of grow into the future in a positive way in terms of business, that sort of thing, but maintain the essential character of Sebago, which is farming, rural vacation, and that's just my opinion. But one thing I'm hoping we talk about is, in terms of data collection, is making sure that as many people in town have an opportunity to say what they think Sebago should be like, but more than that, just explain it in some way. Because it's easy to say, we want Sebago to stay the way that it is, but have good small businesses. That's the easy part. The hard part is, how do we get there with our comprehensive plan and then subsequent ordinances?
Yeah, 100%. That's what we hope to do with part of the process. And as you said, kind of asking those harder questions in a way, but of everyone, getting everyone's input. And we will need your help with that as well.
I think the challenge is going to be that the state, even though we want to keep our rural character in Sebago, the state's new statutes and their mandates on allowing two houses to be built on every house lot and an ADU on top of that. So in a subdivision, theoretically, in a subdivision at this point, if you wanted to put in a 5-lot subdivision, you could have put as many as 15 residential units in that. And with the price of land, that's one of my fears. Yeah.
How do we keep the rural when the state's trying to make everything city?
Yeah. Being circumvented by the state's statutes. Yeah.
That kind of maybe brings me to the next question of what issues do you think are most important for this new comprehensive plan?
And even if you haven't read the current one, I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
I want to echo what Bev said. The town's desire and what they want for the core of this town has to be maintained, but also look at the future. And if the school's important, if businesses are important, the character of the main street's important, that's all things we have to know. before we really kind of get into anything, we have to know what the townspeople want, and what's doable, what's not doable.
Right.
I believe the last comprehensive plan, they may have sent out a survey. And that might be an idea to citizens, and not to make it too long, so that they only have 15 to 20 questions to check off a multiple guess, you know, and it might be, that way it might get returned.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Do we have access to what surveys were, what the questions were before? Is there a way to see it so we can get an idea of what was asked?
We can do a little detective work on that. I don't know if we'll be able to ask the exact same survey, the exact same questions.
Well, I wouldn't want
but-
the exact same, but it would give us an idea of what questions were.
Yeah, it would be interesting to compare some things over time, for sure. But I have a feeling there's probably also some things that have come up since then that might be important to ask about. So a survey is part of our plan, and this is one of the things that we'll talk about. I think probably it's going to end up being at the next meeting where we're going to dive into the public participation plan in a little more detail. We will talk about the overall schedule and the overall scope and kind of sequence of the project before we leave today. And we'll hit some highlights, but I think at the next month we'll dive a lot deeper into the specifics of, you know, what are the best ways to talk with people in town? How do we get that information? We're gonna need to do this work.
And hopefully we can increase the response, because as I remember, it was below 50%.
It's like 26% or something.
Yeah, it was low.
It was very
There
low.
was different ways of getting it done too.
Yeah, right.
It's a little bit easier with technology.
Yeah, and yeah, let's put a pin in that survey conversation. I think it's really important. But let's, as far as introduction and getting some initial high-level feedback, we'll save the specific survey stuff for a little bit later.
Yeah, any more issues that would be important?
So the places I've lived, Maine has an older demographic as a state. I get the impression that maybe Sebago, not only is representative, maybe has a slightly higher demographic. That'll be interesting to see when we get the data. But I think one of the conundrums we have is we want to maintain a fairly rural circumstance. And right now, this is overwhelmingly residential-based tax base. And the seniors are bearing a fairly significant burden because of rising taxes, rapidly rising taxes, some of it outside of our control, for example, the county. And that balance of how we can maintain a rural residential focus without creating an undue tax burden is going to be challenging, in my opinion.
Yeah, a couple more.
I have a question for you. Let's say that this committee comes up with types of businesses we think would be favorable here. Would you actually do surveys from them on what they're looking for in the town?
I've not done that specific kind of thing where we've, unless it's at a different level. Like if it's a downtown or economic development plan, we've talked with developers, owners of other kind of businesses and say, you know, what would it take to get you to open up a coffee shop in town? Or what would it take to get you to open up a small grocery store in town? And I think at a comprehensive plan level, we want to establish some of the criteria about the kinds of things that are going to be important, as well as the location of those things. There are going to be some places in town where you maybe want to focus economic development and activity, and there are going to be places in town where you want it to be the same in 20 years as it is today. So I think those are where we're going to start, and then we'll see how much further down on specific types of businesses or specific business owners. I think that is likely to be kind of the next level. That's like an implementation recommendation coming out of the comp plan, probably.
Yeah, that's currently in there.
So follow up to John's thought process. Do I recall correctly that your firm worked with Standish on their comprehensive plan?
That's, yep.
And
Correct.
does, for example, Standish obviously is an adjacent town. Do they have a, let's call it an economic development component to their plan?
They do. You know, every town is a little different depending on their history, their role in the region, and those kinds of things. So I can tell you, you know, without, this is not your homework, you don't need to read the Standish plan, but they have a lot of recommendations in their plan about zoning changes for their village areas and infrastructure, design standards, those kinds of things.
Well, without necessarily, I think reference to other towns' comprehensive plans is a good resource for us. But without necessarily looking at a specific town, I think one of the challenges that we have in Sebago is we're really small in terms of a population base. And if there were ways to leverage through coordination or cooperation with other communities in conjunction with what Sebago would like to accomplish, it would be a good thing. For example, business development. And so if there was some way that we could, yeah, like I said, create leverage in this process.
Like a coordinated community development director. Something
Which we
like
have,
that.
we have multiple small towns adjacent. We have Baldwin, we have Denmark, Pyram, that would all probably benefit from that.
Okay. I think along the way, there's going to be a lot of specific recommendations that come up and a lot of like, you know, a comprehensive plan. We have a couple slides here. I don't know if we want to skip to them right now, but basically we want to think about, you know, this the comprehensive plan is a high level values, vision, what kind of community are we today? What do we, you know, need to do to be the kind of community that we want to be in the future? And coming out of that, there's going to be some policies, some recommendations, and things that will kind of move the town along a path to kind of keep moving toward that vision. And I think the kind of thing you've talked about here is like it's not, you know, a value, it's not a real high level goal, but that's a specific recommendation. That's a, you know, hire this kind of person or work with the neighboring community on these kinds of programs. Those are going to be, you know, kind of filtering out of the community conversations that we have. So I don't want to lose any of those along the way, but the process that we have, and we'll talk about the schedule, is kind of going to, you know, ask some of those very basic questions. In the survey that we hope to launch next month, it's going to like ask, you know, those kinds of things, not just the, you know, how old are you and how long have you lived in town, but it's going to be, what do you love about Sebago? What is the biggest opportunity for the town to be thinking about over the next 10 years? And like those really high level things. And based on some of those combined with the data, then we'll start to get into the more granular, like specific actions that someone or a group of people could do. Just a couple more and we'll...
Yeah, I just want to know how we're going to get to, we have a lot of people who aren't year-round residents up here. So how, we want to include them in the survey, they own property and they live here, so how are we thinking about doing that if we're trying to do that next month?
Yeah, so the survey, again, coming back to the survey, it would be open for a couple months.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that as many people know about it and have an opportunity to participate. That specific question came up at the select board discussion we had last month. And we had a few ideas at that point, and I think we're going to continue to develop that. Yep, important group of people to hear from.
When we talk about planning for the future, there are some things that I can see as forever. But in writing a plan, what is a reasonable number of years that we're projecting in the future? Like for businesses to come in, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, there's a couple timeframes to keep into account. When we talk about the vision, your vision for the future of the community, that timeframe is like 10 to 20 years. That's usually what we recommend. People think about it, quite far into the future, where you can actually give enough time to go by for some changes to occur. And you'll think about what are the parts of town that are going to be the same as they are today, what are the parts of town that could be different, and how. When it comes to those more specific action items, those strategies and recommendations, some of those could be, we need to do this kind of thing in the next 1 to 2 or 3 years. So the long-term vision is going to kind of provide that goalpost in the future where you can have some of those shorter term actions to kind of move you along. Yep. One more and then maybe go into the slides.
So, what are the other towns that you folks have worked with that are sort of like Sebago in this area?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work in the Lakes region, and we've done a lot of work in Maine with, if you want to talk in this region, communities like Gray, we mentioned Standish, Gorham and Wyndham. We haven't done comprehensive planning work in Naples, but we've done a lot of planning work in Naples and done a comprehensive plan in Raymond. So I think one of the things that we're going to be bringing to this effort is a little bit of that local knowledge when we talk about opportunities to coordinate and maybe share resources and think about how that cooperation could work. And I think just knowing, some of the goals that some neighboring communities have around open space and where some of those resources are is helpful too. But I think it's also important to think about not just geographically, but we want to get to know Sebago very well through this process, but kind of coming out of the gate, I think of other seasonal communities. Some of them are coastal communities, communities that rely on tourism, communities that have a strong second home market. So we've worked with a number of those communities around the state as well, but I don't want to presuppose too much about Sebago. There's a few things that, you all know Sebago and we know Sebago a little bit, but I think one of the things that we want to emphasize kind of coming out of the gate is we're professional planners and we have a good process and we've done our work in a lot of communities, but you're the experts in Sebago, and we're going to be relying on this group to help us understand what we need to know about the town and help us understand what is the best way. When we talked about how to communicate with folks, our first thing is well, what do you have for, how would an online survey be received, and do you use Facebook, and we've got some pretty good feedback. It's we do that stuff, but we are also going to need some face-to-face conversations and make sure that materials are available in this building and other locations around town. So we'll get more into the specifics, but I think this is good stuff, and we can kind of circle back to some of this if we have some time at the end. Do you want to jump right in? My sense was that these slides would provide a little bit of a, for those who may be familiar with the current plan and those who might not be, just in the 2-minute version of what is a comp plan, give you a little bit of a sense of what you're signing up for and kind of what this thing could look like at the end. So I'm happy to jump in with these slides, or you can take it from there. Okay. So I did walk in on a little bit of Growth Management Act and the checklist and some of the state requirements. There is a state statute that says, provides a framework for how plans are done in Maine. We're involved in how this is being updated. There's some updates going through the process now, but if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, I can tell you comprehensive plans in the last few years look very different from the comprehensive plan that Sebago has today.
I want to just, so people are shuffling through, but the handouts you got from the town are just town handouts. I don't believe what he's going through you have on your desk, okay? So if you're looking for that, you're not going to find that.
Yeah, so some of those handouts will be, you'll need to refer to those, because I doubt you're going to be able to read those on the screen from your seat.
It looks like the handout has a good overview of especially the legal precedent and reasons for it. So.
Yeah, so I think without belaboring the point, we talked about the data, the existing conditions, what we call the inventory chapters. It's the part of the plan that looks backwards. That's the research part that provides a lot of the data and the conditions that we're going to base this on. There's the forward-looking part, which is that vision statement and the future land use map that will be a major focus of the planning document itself. And along with the data and the research, like I said, we're going to really be relying on public input, whether it's in person at a workshop, whether it's through a survey, or whether it's through conversations with folks here in the room that you bring that information back to us. So again, real quick, it's where have we been with those inventory chapters? Where are we going with the vision statement of future land use? And then the how do you get there is the goals and the strategies that all are organized roughly with the state checklist that you were looking at moments ago. So I think our job is to kind of manage the project and worry about the checklist, and we want you to be thinking about the future of the town. And you know, it's good that you're familiar with the checklist and you kind of know it's there, and that's what we're going to be working off of as a group. But by and large, I think this group doesn't need to be overly concerned with the line by line, 14-page checklist. It's more about understanding who are we hearing from, who haven't we heard from, ideas on how to reach them, and making sure that our information is complete as possible. So it is a very high-level plan. We want to make sure that we're providing the town with good detail. Like a lot of the plans from the early 2000s were, we love mom and apple pie and we want to be a four-season community to live, work, and play. I think providing more specific direction and more details and having a vision that is very narrative and specific will lead to good recommendations and help with implementation. So because this plan it's certified by the state against the Growth Management Act and the checklist, that certification is good for 10 years with a little bit of a grace period at the end. This is going to outlast any given select board. It's going to outlast planning board members. It's going to carry over through multiple town budgets and election cycles. And it's going to be something hopefully that volunteers, elected folks, town staff will be able to lean on for guidance and kind of keep going back to. So it's not the plan to end all plans. Things will come up in the next 10 years. There were no plans before 2020 that talked about a pandemic. There will be things that happen that this plan cannot foresee, but I want you to just kind of understand that this is going to be something that you can kind of keep coming back to, is something you can, when it's time to make decisions. Some towns have said, well, if it's not in the plan, we can't do it. And that's not true. The plan can provide some guidance, but it does leave plenty of room for volunteers and elected officials and staff to help make decisions on things that will come up over time. So with a group this big, we talked a little bit about just generally what we're hoping this committee will do and how you will support the overall planning effort. Some of this is again up here. We're helping be the ambassadors of this. Making sure as many people as possible are aware of this effort and have an opportunity to participate. Helping us understand, who we're hearing from, who we're not hearing from. Some good examples of that have been like, I can think of, I think it was in Wyndham where, we had a meeting, great meeting, well attended. There were, the gym was full of people. And at the next committee meeting, I was ready to start congratulating everybody and say, didn't we do a great job? And they said, well, yeah, but we didn't have anybody who was involved with youth sports because there was a big Little League tournament that weekend and the basketball team was doing something and we need to be, that was a good event, but we need to take it with a grain of salt and understand who we're hearing from. So this group will also be reviewing the draft materials before they're ready to be shared with the broader community. So as we draft chapters and vision statements and recommendations, this group is going to be the first test to kind of look at these things and say, tighten this up, add more detail, or that's crazy, don't dare put this on the webpage. So having that local truth checking, because you can do this work around and some of the same kind of conditions make you think, oh, this would be a great recommendation like we did in Bristol or Tremont, but it's a completely different context, and we want to recognize that and have you tell us when ideas are good and when they're not good. So one of the ways to help us do that, I think, is we talked about the idea of subcommittees, and I don't know if anyone in this group has thought about subcommittees or talked about or had a chance to go to that level of detail yet. But one of the things we can firm up at the next meeting might be to break out some of the tasks into smaller groups so that people have a chance to get a little more hands-on with aspects of the project that they might be more interested in. If there are people who are really interested in looking at the data, those folks might be interested in being on a subcommittee to help us kind of review the draft chapters and inventory work as they come out. If there are people who are really interested in public participation and talking with neighbors and kind of getting out in the community, you can help us with that part of the project around public participation, help awareness and marketing and those kinds of things. So those are generally two kinds of subcommittees that I thought of early, and I think we talked about a couple days ago with the staff at a prep session for this work. So are there any thoughts on how people might want to get involved between meetings? And maybe any other thoughts on the kinds of things that, hey, when I signed up for this, I did it because I'm really interested in a certain aspect of this, beyond, just general interest in the future of the community. Any initial thoughts?
Just wondering if you can share the timeline. How long do we have to complete this process? How often will we meet? Once a month? Like,
Yeah.
what is the framework?
Do you want to skip to the next one? I think this is one of the handouts.
Yes.
Sorry.
So this is a really cool graph that you can't read, and it will make more sense in front of you. We had scoped out a 12-month project. And honestly, this is one of the things that I think we can do as the planners and project managers here is make sure that you are not signed up for an indefinite effort. There are many comp plans. I've heard stories of 2 and 3 and 4 years and more, where communities just kind of go around and round, and it's usually around the data. We need more data, we need better data, it's time to update the data. So what we've proposed is some overlapping work so that we're working on hearing from people as well as collecting data early in the process over the next several months with an initial, introduction to this effort. We've got a February meeting on our calendar to come to that birthday celebration, the dinner. But I think there's also going to be a more dedicated first community workshop where we want to share some early results of the survey, even if the survey remains open. We want to ask some very specific questions about town. That's probably going to be in the March or April timeframe. Refine some of the inventory chapters and mapping work over the summer so that we can have a initial set of very preliminary goals and action items in the fall, and have a draft plan ready for the town about a year from now. So the idea is we want to be having these conversations. We're anticipating monthly meetings from now through December with the potential of a month off in the summer while we do some work behind the scenes to get ready for a fall workshop. Yes?
What do we need to do to prepare for next month for the birthday bash? What can we do to support you to have a good showing at the birthday bash?
That's a great question. I think number one is put it on your calendar and be there. We want to have at least a couple folks from our office there as well. And I'm anticipating having a table with a few posters, some hard copies of a survey, a link to a project website, which we'll be launching over the next several weeks. And it's really that very initial, hey, tell us, we're just getting started. What do we need to know as we get started? And that's kind of where we'll be at in February. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things we should talk about is, will we need another committee meeting in February in addition to that community event? Because that event's going to be, I'm expecting hopefully just saying hi to your neighbors and being social and enjoying the party, and not a work session like this. So that's something to consider. Yeah.
Is the survey that you mentioned having at the party on your table, is that the survey that's gonna go out to everyone?
Yep. Our intent is to have a survey. We have 5 questions that we always like to use, and I gave you a sample of a couple of them. What do you love about Sebago? What are the biggest opportunities that you foresee? What's your big idea? What's the one most impactful thing that the town could do to make the future better? There are, I think, a number of other survey questions that we've got kind of in the stable of survey questions, but to someone's earlier point, we don't want this to be the kind of thing that takes a half hour to do. Ideally, this is going to be between 5 and 10 questions. It's going to take about 5 minutes to complete, and it's going to do a couple things. One, it will give us some good direction on those very high level kinds of things, like what kind of community would you value in the future? What are your big ideas? What do you love? Those kinds of very big themes. And it's also going to help build awareness for the project overall by doing this early and kind of getting this in as many places as possible. At the end of the survey, we may have the ability to say, hey, come to our meeting on March 24th, or come to this workshop to talk more about these kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So that's really the intent. We want to do kind of as much as we can with all of the interactions we have with people. Mm-hmm. So there will be good data that we get from this, but it's also kind of gonna build into the next task.
I have a question for you. This is a lot of work, right? We get that. The scale of the work, shouldn't we be comparing your survey to the old comprehensive plan so it gives us a foundation? Rather than trying to invent this all
Yep.
and find what's not clicking between the survey answers and what we have, and then correct that, wouldn't that make this a lot smoother?
Yeah, and I do like the idea that there might be a few questions that we could borrow from the last comprehensive planning effort that you can kind of see if attitudes or conditions have changed over time. The survey questions are not totally set. We don't have a survey that we do for every town that we're ready to hit print tomorrow. But I wanted to give folks an idea of, you know, the kinds of questions and the general length of the survey that we're envisioning.
I think the questions are cool, whatever you ask. I think one thing I want to do, and I'd like to have the comprehensive plan and know it, for me, I'm going to know it inside and out, because I want to know when we get those answers, what doesn't work. Because that's when we can start building committees and working on things versus starting from scratch. It sounds like it's a monumental task that we don't need to do if we don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think one of the things that I don't believe is in your handout is we've kind of drafted up a public participation plan based on the proposal. So this schedule was in the proposal. It's subject to change. If we need to add some time or spend a little more time on a particular thing, we can do that. We have a public participation plan that kind of overlaps the schedule. So at each one of these stages, we're envisioning a community meeting, a mapping exercise, a workshop, you know, all along the way until we get to the final draft document. So there will be things that are probably on this public participation plan that people in this group will be like, yeah, sure, that sounds like a good idea, and we'll do it. And then before we do another one in the fall, why don't we adjust the approach? Or if we find things that are working, like we'll do that again. And if we find that things aren't working the way we thought, we'll have a chance to adjust it. But the idea is we want to have an approach and a plan out of the gate that we can kind of truth check with the people in this room, and then recognize we can make adjustments as we go. So, any questions about the schedule overall? Yeah.
Will we have meetings without you and your associates?
I think it's very possible if we set up subcommittees, that the subcommittees could work independently and kind of bring things back to the group. Our expectation is that, you know, for a meeting of this group on a monthly basis, we'll be here at those. But I think if there's, you know, energy to do things and good direction to do things, I think this is your plan. And having you know, take that kind of ownership would be appropriate if it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Does our plan get approved by the town first and then goes to the state, or vice versa?
Our recommendation is usually to get it approved by the state first. Take your draft plan, once it finally comes together in the October, November timeframe, send it to the state for them to review. And once it's, you know, it's either, you know, going to be consistent with the state, or it's going to be consistent once some edits are made or some updates or additional data is made. Once you get that gold star or that finding of consistency, I think that's the time to bring it back to the town, rather than I've seen examples where the town adopts a plan and then they send it to the state, and the state says, well, it's short here and you didn't do this good enough, and then 3 months later you're like, hey, we need to update the plan we just adopted. So I think it tends to work better if you create the plan you want, make sure it's consistent, and then go through the official kind of local adoption process.
The notification process for passing a comprehensive plan by legislative body, I believe, is the strictest notification process that I know out of any ordinance. So when we go to pass that, to bring it to the legislative body, there's a longer notification process for it.
Yeah.
So one, just going back to the questions on the survey. So again, it's my opinion, but I suspect based on many people that I've spoken to in town, and it goes to your point about, our town is primarily a residential base. And I think a lot of people would be interested in how we can develop our small businesses, develop more small business in town. And so I think it's important for us to know if that's true. Do people want more small business? But moreover, what does that look like? Because again, I go back to, it's easy to say we want small business. The hard part is, what does that mean? What does it look like? And so I just want to make sure that based on your experience, when you do these surveys, do you get that kind of information when you ask, what's a great opportunity for the town? Because I just want to make sure that we're getting, that's, I think, a very important component is small business. How do we create more small business that fits within what everybody wants for Sebago?
I'll respond to that by saying that kind of nuance is difficult to get in a survey. It tends to come out more in a conversation, or when you have people in a room and you can ask clarifying questions. The example I'm thinking of is, if we had a survey question that said, do you want small business? Yes. Like, do you want small business if you need to invest in a small local sewer system? Like that may be a very different answer. Or do you want small business if it means adding a new lane to 114 in town? Those kinds of things. If you've got a 5 or 10 question survey, that level, you're probably not going to get to with a specific survey question.
But what about asking something more along the lines of I'm interested in knowing, when we're talking about small businesses, are we talking about restaurants that support the summer people? Are we talking about more shops, and where would those, because I think it's really important for us to understand, what does the town want that's more specific than just, we want more small business in town. We want to have more than just a residential base.
Right.
And because I do think a lot of people would say that, but trying to drill down a little bit more.
I think that's what I heard in your initial question a little bit too, is like how far can we go with these recommendations? One of the things about comp plans, as I said at the beginning, it's the highest level municipal planning document. A lot of comp plans will lead to an economic development plan or an open space plan or a downtown plan, a neighborhood plan. So we want to make sure that the comp plan for Sebago is doing its job as like the town-wide high-level plan. But one of my, pet peeves, I guess, is leaving a planning effort with an impression that, it's just a plan that says we got to do more planning, right? We want to have some concrete recommendations and specific things we can do. So that's really the balancing act that I think the people in this room can help with. That when we establish a very clear high-level vision, values, how do those things translate into the kinds of businesses that would be kind of the most suitable kind of next step for Sebago? Where would those be? What kind of support or infrastructure would be required to help create that environment where those kinds of businesses would be successful?
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, if I could just jump in quickly. In part of the public participation plan that we've kind of been beginning to talk about, and you already sort of made a point about subcommittees, those, again, that's a question that works really well to get nuance in a conversation. Just from like a practical standpoint, the data that comes from putting all of that in a survey increases time, work, all of that. So having those conversations is not just a way to collect the data, but a way to engage people as well. So that might be an opportunity, if you're interested in a subcommittee, to have those conversations. And we can talk about what like a focus group could look like.
One of the things that, you know, I kind of mentioned coming in is like, when I think about the process, I'm like, oh, there could be a subcommittee for public participation, a subcommittee for helping with the data. But I did hear from over here, like maybe if through the survey and this first workshop, we hear that the big issues are open space, economic development, and access to the water. Like maybe that's what the subcommittees form around. So I think there are a couple different ways we could approach how people, you know, dive into a little bit more detail with the work. Yeah.
Can we, will we actually have access to the survey before it's sent out?
I was thinking, based on the amount of time we've talked about the survey tonight, that it might make sense to kind of draft up a few questions, or maybe draft up 10 questions and say, let's pick the 5 to 7 or 8 questions we like the best, and kind of run that by the group before it goes out to the community at large. You know, I've got a handful that I'm pretty invested in, but I think there is a lot of flexibility around, you know, what some of those initial conversation touch points would be. Any thoughts from the back, Michael, about how to?
No, I just think, I'm really grateful for this turnout, because we had a great turnout for our first night. And as you know, in February and March, we're gonna try to do a meeting each month there, but February and March is tough for a lot of people in this room. 20% of people do 80% of the volunteering, and we have budget committee coming up, CIP coming up, we have a beach committee, and we have other committees coming up, but the ones that are gonna be taken up Wednesday nights, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are very tough coming up. That's besides select board meeting and planning board meetings that come up. So I think that you did a great job. I really want to do this as an orientation, get everybody in the same room, see who's gonna be here, see what their interest is. You let them know with the website that's gonna be set up dedicated for this, and so we can share information and then get some input from this group. And then again, we're very grateful for the crowd that showed up tonight. It's a great group.
I have one other question.
Okay.
It's technical. The invitation that we received in our emails referenced a platform. Help? Or is that a Garrett help? This is my only computer.
I see.
So, help.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we're gonna do is gonna be things that you can read, either in hard copy or probably on your phone. I'm gonna be the project manager on our end and coordinating primarily through Garrett. Christina and Michael will be well in the loop. But most of our work, and I think if this committee can be, if you have questions and comments, kind of get them to Garrett, and Garrett and I will be communicating regularly, and things that we need from this group will be going through Garrett as well. So if you have questions or those kinds of needs or feedback for us as an overall, that would be the preferred communication path.
Okay.
Yeah. One more.
Point out that there are computers available at the library. You just have to get there, schedule when they're open.
idea.
Yeah.
How do you anticipate the rate of growth with LD 1829 and the ADUs in a town like Sebago?
We will do a population projection. I honestly, part of that's going to be informed by recent building permit activity, census data. We're going to draw on a few different sources when we make a informed guess about the rate of growth and population change. We'll see. It'll be interesting in a town like Sebago to see if accessory dwelling units significantly impact that. My guess is
yes,
they already are.
They are.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how that goes. And part of our ask to this group is to make sure that, you know, we're going to truth check this stuff with this group. And if you're just like, oh, gee, that doesn't seem to make sense, or like, how did you get to this? The state data is saying this, but that's not what we're experiencing at all. Like, we're going to want to hear about that from folks in this room.
Have you had any interaction with other towns that are having the same problems with these new statutes from the state?
It's still an evolving issue. I get calls every week about ordinance changes and implications and what do we need to do, and how is this?
It's kind of a moving target, and it
really is. Yeah.
So I just wonder how you write a comprehensive plan for the future with this. I mean, this is a big unknown, and
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, knowing we're at just a little bit past what people had signed up to commit to tonight. There's a lot of things that we won't be able to predict. Part of our work is going to be, what are the recommendations that we can put forward that will work across multiple scenarios? Like, what happens if ADUs really explode? What happens if ADUs peter out? What happens if the state keeps making housing policy for local communities? What happens if we have a lot more control? There may be a couple things that work across those instances, and those are going to be the things that kind of rise to the top as
it'd be like a driving force for the business district too.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we put a tight agenda together, and I do that, but also I'd like to stick to it pretty tight, not go much more than 15 minutes, because I know a lot of people come in and you're busy, so we really try to stick to them so people don't dread coming to these meetings. I really appreciate everybody coming out. It's a great turnout. The few people that didn't show up actually called to let me know they couldn't make it and why, so the interest is there. Hopefully you all have the interest. This is not a sprint, it's going to be a marathon here. It's going to take us a year to do this.
So can we decide on
Next meeting?
a better day of the week than Wednesday?
Yeah, I think what we can do is probably, what I have to do is I'm still working on a calendar of use of the room, because there's a bunch of committees and meetings coming up, and try to work around that along with their schedules, because they're doing this in other places. So trying to match them two out, and as soon as we can line them up, we can get that back out, see if we can come up with a date that most of us. The reality of getting everybody, this amount of people at once, even tonight, I'm very happy of this many, because people have different lives, people have things that happen, different work shifts. So this is actually a great turnout.
Agreed. Yeah.
We also have the downstairs at the old building too, we could use.
Yeah, and it is true, we have more spaces, but we don't have more people.
True.
And a lot of people, like I said, 20% of the people do 80% of the volunteering. I probably know everybody in this room because I've talked to on other committees or other things. Didn't mean to interrupt, go ahead.
No, so I think with that, like, I'll stick around for a few more minutes if people want, but I think, thank you very much for signing up. Michael is gonna look at the room schedule. I do feel like there's a lot of advantage to like having, if it's the second Wednesday or the third Monday or whatever it is, just to be able to plan on it. So that's what we'll strive for. So
I think we should meet in February too.
Yeah.
So are we going to schedule a February meeting?
No.
We'll see what the room schedule looks like. And